Alright. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Hey guys, it's Sixes again. Just making another video to demonstrate the DragonKnight hybrid tank. This one is a Magicka based hybrid tank, emphasized on pushing more mag heavy groups where you're using a lot of Inferno stabs and such. This is to complement alongside them as well as contribute a lot of additional damage for them. First, we're going to go off our character sheet, which, when we're fully buffed, let's get a resistance buff so you can kind of see that. We're almost at resistance cap for spell, not so much for physical, but we'll go on to later, but it's not too big of a deal as we don't have the full procs of our sets yet. For attributes, we do 30 in Magicka and 34 into health. This is going to make it so we have a higher Magicka pool, which is our intended goal for this, as we are a mag heavy centric tank. If we can get our stamina back through heavy attacking, it's not too big of a deal on that regard. The food we're using is a tri-stat food or Bewitched Sugar Skulls. Either will do just fine. Bewitched Sugar Skulls, of course, being the more potent version of this, but you're not going to be at any harm of using either or. Our Lord Mundus is going to be consistent across the board for most of these tanks, as it's my ideal Mundus. Nothing wrong with having a little extra additional health if you aren't having any issue with your other resources, you know. Werewolf is on this character, but it is not a requirement. It's just something that I've always just had on it. I'd prefer just to be a human on this build, so I don't really use the werewolf form. I would advise being just a human and not a vampire or werewolf for pretty much all of my tanks across the board. So let's go over to gear now. For gear, we are going to be using a Maelstrom Inferno Staff on back bar. I am currently occupying for another test build with my current one, but you would want to use an infused crusher on the back bar, as well as it just provides a little bit of additional damage on our light and heavy attacks. And with how our front bar is, we won't necessarily need to have the 5-piece set of the other bar on both bars at all times. The other set, that being Alkosh, which we are running a Nirnhoned Alkosh for the additional weapon and spell damage. And we're also running a Sturdy Shield of Alkosh with a Triune stat on it. And as mentioned before, the reason why our resistances are okay as they are is because we are using the Lord Warden set. We are using a 5-1-1, one of the few tanks I will actually do this on. So we have a medium helmet is the ideal trait with a prismatic enchantment on it. And we also have a full set of Ebon with Sturdy. That is our main goal with this, as well as Lord Warden's Shoulder Light should be Sturdy as well. Unfortunately, I don't have the perfect trait for that one. And once we go down, we're going to be okay with what we have. The key thing is we want to have at least between 5 and 7 pieces of Sturdy is the ideal range. We also are using Alkosh, 1-piece Healthy and 2-piece Arcane with all spell damage. And a quick little demonstration of the damage of the set. It's not too bad. You can get a nice little bit of passive dot damage. On the character sheet, we did forget to mention one other thing. I am a high elf. This tank is actually a high elf. This is not a Nord tank. The main reason for that will be detailed later. Nord will work just fine for this, but this wanted to be a little bit of a different build. So for our skills, we're going to go over what we have available here. We do have shifting standard for if you want to do that and have a 29-second standard and just shift it around, do a lot of damage with it. Works just perfectly fine that way. We do have Flame Lash as a potential option if you are getting a Warden that's providing you your major resolve just through its expansive cloak and it has a good uptime. Then just feel free to replace our spiked armor with this, well, our volatile armor I should say, and it will just offer an opportunity for you to get additional healing on yourself. An extremely powerful heal for this build is actually Burning Embers. It's going to provide you with a nice dot, and you can get upwards of a 24k heal out of this during its duration. It's a very strong skill to have. The key thing we're going for is our Engulfing Flames. The reason why we're high elf and the build is designed this way is once we have all of our raid buffs, we actually do reach the 10% full value. So that's what makes this tank very powerful and compared to others when it comes to assisting your allies. Of course, we have our Chain Pull here, as well as Cauterize. Cauterize is just that skill if you want to have the additional heal and spell critical, you can just slot this on and be fine with that. And of course, with all the flame damage, you're going to get extra sustain out of our combustion passive, as we have increased damage for burning and poison status effects, as well as the 500 Magicka and 500 poison well, 500 stamina when we proc poisoned or burning, which is really good. We of course have our warmth passive, our searing key, and world in ruin. Our world in ruin is just gonna make our AoE flame abilities that are present on our back bar stronger. And just to cover our back bar real quick, we are of course using our unrelenting grip. We have unstable wall of elements with Elfbane. If you wanted to make a little bit of a twist on this set, and someone was already using Eben, you could use Elfbane instead of Eben, and actually then swap back to Elemental Blockade and have an upwards of a 19-second blockade, along with a 23-second eruption. This would make these dots very long-lasting and very powerful in that regard for you. In addition to that, we have Equilibrium, which we actually will morph to Spell Symmetry for this build, as we are using Volatile Armor. I've tanked with Equilibrium as it is, but Spell Symmetry will just increase our sustain a little bit, which is always nice, especially with the cost reductions that are coming in the upcoming patch. We are running Degeneration for our major sorcery, as well as a passive dot. It's mainly there. It can be replaced with a ranged taunt if you need it for certain situations. But it's there as an additional dot and a way for us to get major sorcery at a cheap amount. Next we have our aggressive horn, which is going to allow us to be able to give the maximum Magicka and maximum stamina, as well as the major force, which that is perfectly fine with this build, as this build is tailored around having higher max Magicka with the raid benefits to make our engulfing flame stronger. From our Draconic Power, we're actually going to have, of course, our Volatile Armor, which once you're fully buffed, you can get about 1k DPS single target off this alone if you can keep this up well enough. We do have Choking Talons as an option for our root, but we are using Eruption to help kind of maintain that. We're actually using Coagulating Blood on this build instead of Green Dragon's Blood. Either will work, but the heal from coagulating in this build tends to be a little bit stronger and more consistent, as it is our primary heal unless we have Burning Embers on. Of course, we have the Reflective Dragonfire skill, so we can proc a flame attack onto our enemies every half second whenever we are hit with a projectile. It's just a nice little bit of passive damage, as well as mitigation from ranged abilities. We also have our AoE Interrupt, which will also do an explosion, so it's just to help build off that passive damage. And of course, with the skill line, we're going to make sure we have all of these passives so that we can kind of increase our healing received, block mitigation, and health recovery, and as well as get our spell resistance a little higher. We do have Stone Giant available to us if you want to run that additionally to what we already are running to make your team a little bit stronger in that regard. We also have Molten Ornaments for the same reason we'd have Igneous Weapons, strictly for the idea of giving more major brutality and major sorcery to our allies. This morph just doesn't last as long. You could do the other morph if you'd like, but this one just helps benefit us for our heavy attack damage. We're also running Fragmented Shield for the longer addition to our Major Mending, as we don't have as much health as the other DK tanks I have made in the past. So this is going to make it so that way we have more benefit out of the coagulating if we want to use this. And of course our Eruption just for our long-term dot, as well as a nice burst in damage to start with. We do also have our 20% increase in Earth and Heart abilities, our Battle Roar, which is our biggest sustain passive when it comes to using our ultimates. And one thing that's nice is with this type of setup, if you are using Stone Giant or Fragmented, you're of course going to give your minor brutality to your group, as well as you gain the 990 stamina per cast that you do with them. But what's nice is this also ties into why we're a high elf. Proccing the Earthen Heart passive while being a high elf actually makes this a 1.5k stamina return. So it actually buffs this Helping Hands passive in a sense. Granted, the high elf portion has a bit of a cooldown on it, but it does give us a nice benefit. And of course, with our one-hand shield, we're going to be running Ransack, Heroic Slash, and Absorb Magic. I just don't have a skill point to morph it. We want to make sure we have all the one-handed shield passives, which I don't quite have yet, but that's okay. And of course, another bug demonstration. Alright, so if you'd like to get a preview of the full resistances buffed now as well, I suppose that's the time. I don't have it fully ranked up, but you want to make sure to get all these passes when you can. In addition to that, we're going to have our Destruction Staff. You want to get Crushing Shock available in case you want to run that for the group. We have Unstable Wall of Elements, but you could also just run Elemental Blockade. Either is fine. We do also have an Ellie Drain available in case our team needs it, as this is a Magicka style tank. We do have all of our light armor passes, but we only really need the top 3. And we could use some of the medium armor, all except agility, which is fine. I mean, either way, it's up to you. We do want all of our heavy armor passives, though. And with Fire's Guild, it's always good to have Banish the Wicked. If you do have this available, it's a nice benefit. If you don't, that's fine. Mage's Guild, we have Mage's Adept for the cost and health reduction from like the health and Magicka cost reduction off the abilities to help our spell symmetry be a little cheaper and also increase the duration of them. And of course, we're getting Equilibrium and Degeneration out of this. We're also running Undaunted for our range taunt. If we want to replace it over, we would use the Mag taunt. And we also have Energy Orb in case we want to provide a little additional healing. And both of the mages, well, both the Undaunted passives. Which we will get the full benefit out of this one for the 6% more health, Magicka, and stamina. And out of this one, we do have Proximity Detonation on top of Warhorn, which is a key one that we might actually use every now and then. Just for a big burst of AoE damage when we're gathering things up. It's actually really effective in that manner. We also have Efficient Purge, which is just great for being able to help purge during like VHOF and such. And then our high health passives. Here's the one that I previously mentioned. It's a little bit different, but of course when we're in a channel or cast time we take 5% less damage. But it just gives us, this would give us 640 more stamina because we are more mag heavy. Of course we have the extra 2k Magicka as well as the 258 more spell damage. And of course the passive everyone tends to forget but wants to make sure that they have as a tank is medicinal use, just to make our durations longer when we use potions. In terms of CP, we are running 31 in Warlord, 27 Sprinter, and 5 in Bashing Focus to help reduce our stamina cost. We have 37 to Tenacity and 43 into Arcanus for the Mag Sustain, as well as increase our rate of returning stamina through our heavy attacks or Magicka through our Fire Staff. We have 66 in Shadow Ward and 61 in Tumbling for the stamina cost reduction when doing so. It's going to be very key as we are not a stamina heavy tank. For blue CP, we are running 49 Bless for the increased healing from our healing abilities, 34 into Elfborn for the extra critical healing, and damage, of course, as we are actually using Magicka damage on this tank. We also have 56 into Elemental Expert for the 12% more damage for our fire attacks across the board, and 43 into Spell Erosion for the extra penetration so our damage can be pushed a little more. We're also running 44 into Master at Arms and 44 into Thaumaturge to increase our dot damage. For our red CP, we are running 56 into Ironclad, 18 into Spell Shield, and we are running 56 into Hardy, Elemental Defender, and Thick Skinned, and 28 into Heavy Armor Focus to try to bring it up to par on that regard. Well, that has been the Magicka tank, the Magicka hybrid tank for DK. If you have any other questions or want to see any other builds or have any ideas that might be able to be theory crafted to become viable builds, don't be afraid to leave a comment below. Like, comment, subscribe. It's very appreciated. Love you guys all. And I hope you guys have a good day.